Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody in the comms box. Welcome into the TGR Nation Grand V Series. This is round 4 of Season 2 here, and this is at Cadwell Park, a very technical circuit. Welcome in, everybody, and in the comms box joining me is the likes of Adam Reed, and in the background in production is Samuli Kumo, and it is looking to be a very, very intense race. Following from previous rounds, we've seen it gets very, very technical with some of these drivers. Loads and loads of action up and down. Adam, how are you feeling for this race coming up?
Indeed, Tristan, it's going to be a superb round of V action. It's a super technical circuit. You're already seeing the full circuit configuration on your screens just there. The temperature not too bad, still partly cloudy around places, but it does seem like a fine day for Formula V racing, and I'm really looking forward towards getting into that qualifying session. We're just looking at the last moments of practice here before jumping into the main part of this session.
Absolutely, and in a couple of minutes we will be joined with previous season's race leader and champion Zach Rattray-White, who also gave an absolutely phenomenal fight last week at the likes of VIR South. So I'll be chatting to him in a bit. But before we do that, let's go through a very quick championship standings heading into round 4. Matthias Marin and Joel Bergada currently tied in for first place with 103 points, followed by Rob Wright in third, Zach Rattray-White in fourth, and following them is Sean Kapinski, Mark Schweening, Michael Thiessen, Neil Hanley, Chris Lim, Gianni Lutsu, who is also coming up and fighting through the pack, Alex Bube Bradley, Alan DeGassis, Andrew James, Christopher Cassiano, and Daniel Taylor rounds off the top 15 so far for our championship standings here at the likes of TGR Nation Grand V. But like we mentioned, we're on now to round 4, and I believe, Adam, you have a little bit of real-life vision and a little bit of a real-life view from this track that you've seen here at Cadwell Park.
Indeed, it's a very difficult circuit. You know, a lot of drivers already know that, but the elevation around this circuit absolutely monstrous. It's really more than you think. You know, you see those hills, but trust me, when you just walk on the circuit, it just feels a lot more, especially the steepness of this first corner. It is absolutely mighty, and I think a lot of our drivers are going to really prepare to try and work around this circuit, because there is a lot to kind of work with at this moment in time, but I'm sure they'll be able to tackle it with, I wouldn't say ease, but I will say that there will be pretty tough on both the drivers and the cars themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so there you've heard it from someone who's seen some of the action real life on this circuit. And from what we've seen round 1 to 3, and obviously already a season being passed in season 1, this is not... I mean, it's a relatively easy car to drive. I mean, it's a car you get towards the beginning of your iRacing career, but it does show a little bit of flames when it comes to some of the technicality points of it. It does get a little bit volatile on downshift. We've seen the rear end face the front, and so it's going to get interesting today. So don't let your eyes get peeled off of the screens for tonight, folks, because it's going to be a great race. But just before we head into our qualifying round, we're going to be pulling in Mr. Zach Rattray White, our reigning champion from Season 1, just into the comms box for a quick interview before qualifying. Mr. Zach, welcome into the commentary box. How are you doing today?
Doing fine, thanks for having me.
That's awesome to hear, man. So how is things going so far in Season 2? Obviously, clutching up an amazing win last season in Season 1. Reigning champion coming in now. Obviously, you missed the first couple of rounds here in Season 2, but you're already climbing up that ladder, up into 4th position on the championship standing. So how are things going? I mean, how's it going in terms of where your mind is at? Do you think you can clutch it up for another season here?
Season's going alright so far. I'm just trying to take it as it is and take it round by round, and whatever happens, happens. I'm not too fussed on the championship at the moment. We're only a couple races in, so try not to think about the big picture too much just yet.
Absolutely. And talking about not looking at the big picture, tonight we head to Cadwell Park. Not too sure if you've raced there before, but it is a more technical circuit, very difficult when it comes to the mid sectors. How are you feeling in the V tonight at Cadwell Park?
Well, when I raced here last season, I actually shunted out on the first lap, I think. So, hopefully that doesn't happen again tonight. But I do like the track in this car. I think anything bigger than this car is a bit oversized. It feels a bit like a go-kart track. So, but I do like this place. It feels, especially the last sector, is pretty technical. So, yeah, feeling good.
Absolutely. Oh, and then a final question just before letting you go back to the pits and get ready for this race. There is a very clear rivalry starting to form from the past rounds with Mr. Gianni Lutsu, and we saw it last week at VIR South. There was loads of up and down fighting between you and the fellow driver. So how is that rivalry looking? Has it been one that developed already in Season 1, or is it a new rivalry coming into Season 2?
Well, Gianni's a very good friend of mine. He's actually my teammate, so we try to keep it civil, but whatever happens on the racetrack, it sometimes can be out of our control.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it is racing at the end of the day, and anything can happen. But thank you so much for hopping into the comms box, Mr. Zach Rattray White. We're going to let you go off and continue to have a little bit of practice just before the start of qualifying. Good luck in qualifying and good luck in today's race. We'll see you out on track.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so that was Mr. Zach Rattray White, and he really posed a threat last time in round 3 at VIR, but now back to round 4. We have 3 minutes left around about of practice before we head towards our qualifying session. And I mean, what are your expectations here, Adam? Obviously, you know that this is a very difficult circuit. I know this is a difficult circuit, but I mean, what are you expecting here? Are we expecting loads of contact? Are we expecting clean racing?
I think we're going to be seeing cautious racing. You know, we're for a 30-minute race ahead of us, but I think the qualifying is going to be absolutely pivotal. You know, you're seeing so many circuits on this calendar where they're just like quite wide open circuits. This one is just so narrow. You're seeing with Marin, the Canadian driver, who is just at this moment in time carrying his way in towards that final section. If we can just keep here with the Canadian, just see how difficult this section is. This is called the mountain. It's over a big jump that is definitely worth viewing. And then you go into a big old forest section, which they call the mini Nordschleife. Because look at it, it just twists and twists and twists and twists and into a very slow hairpin section. But that's not it. You go through the tree once again and approach this side, which again is a very, very tight corner. Also appeared multiple times in the film Rush in 2013, which kind of with a depiction of the battle between Niki Lauda and James Hunt from the 1976 Formula One season.
Well, I mean, we seem to have a bit of a movie star out here then at Cadwell Park. Seems like it's quite a famous track overall for its distinct corners. And I mean, even being nominated as a mini Nordschleife just because of the similarities it poses to the track of hell that some refer to Nordschleife as. This, almost like our current reigning champion, Zach Rattray-Wright mentions, is almost like a go-kart track. It's very narrow, as most of the viewers will see. Not a lot of space to potentially make any form of dive bombs or risky decisions, and although it is just a 30-minute race, one bad move could end up in a catastrophic end to tonight's race. So drivers are going to have to be careful, like you say, Adam.
You don't want to be losing any form of wings or any form of, well, any part of your car really, because you know that could be a real race ender. We head our way in towards the kind of the bunker section. It's just so low. It's probably one of the lowest parts of the circuit, in fact. So yeah, in terms of the driving, I think a lot of the drivers are going to have to be very mindful about how aggressive or controlled they're going to be throughout this race. The checker flag does indeed fly out, so as I say, they're going to have to keep it controlled. You know, you can very easily get frustrated in these races, and if you're going too overly aggressive, you may find yourself losing parts of your car. And these cars are very easy to rotate on. And I'm not talking about turning through corners. I'm talking about turning your car, going 180 degrees, yeah, upside down, and there's not much protection. You can just see that roll hoop just above the helmet. It's kind of on a level with the helmet. So, you know, these are not cars you want to be making wheel-to-wheel contact with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we even nicknamed it last week at VIR. It's the 180 car by far, because one wrong mistake in this car on the back end can be facing the front of the circuit, and it's not what you want. But qualifying has gotten away here. 10 minutes for these drivers to set their laps in and try and get that best time up on the board. So far, nothing being set as the drivers have just come out on their out laps. But we're going to be wanting to see either some expected names up there or some unexpected names. But a big one quickly, Adam, especially for someone who has seen some action from this track in real life. What is it like, especially with back markers on this track? I know, obviously, it's very dependent and case dependent on cars and speed around the track, but especially with being narrow, have you witnessed any form of back marker action, and what can we be thinking about, especially when back marker action comes into today's race?
Well, I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing any back marker action this time around, just because these cars are so similar. You know, there's nothing really comparing the two of them. I do think that we will be seeing some pretty intense racing, but if a car maybe is a little bit slower, has come out the pits to maybe make a change, or gets to tow back to the pits and is trying to go back out, then it will be one where you have to really time it correctly, and it's going to be a very frustrating thing. So I think a lot of our drivers are going to be well prepared for this. I'm sure the laps will have there'll be over 1,000 laps maybe for some of our drivers, just because of the nature of the circuit, how difficult it is, and also putting yourself in different scenarios. I think that's something that a lot of our drivers may need to do before going into a circuit like Cadwell Park, is just allowing yourself to have that little bit of an idea of what it's like to have other cars out into the circuit, not just have yourself on your own. So it will be one of those where you're just looking for that extra couple of tenths, hundreds, thousands even, if it does come to it. And you're really looking for to be one of those that really comes out on top. But just having a look around the circuit, 3 laps these drivers have on the clock, have in terms of setting a lap time, or 10 minutes. So, you know, you're open to have whatever you do in those 10 minutes, and we'll have to see how these drivers approach it, each and every single one of them.
Yeah, I mean, so there you have it from Adam. Not a textbook track like we know some other tracks. You know, you've got your Monzas out there, and you've got your relatively similar tracks. that, you know, one or two laps and there you go, you've got the flow, you know how to take it. But Cadwell is not one of those tracks. Much more complex. It really does take a good mindset and a good car control as well to be able to conquer this track, being nicknamed Mini Nordschleifer on some of these corners. So you definitely want to have a good amount of practice here. And oh, just as we talk about it, Eric Cox not finding the traction in that V and just getting a little bit over rotation into the wall. Thankfully, not too much damage and he can nurse it back home, but not what you want to see. Michael Thiessen now just patrolling throughout the rest of the track, currently on his flying lap over here. He's already done his out lap and about 10% left of this track. So coming around the final couple of bends here, he will be the first driver to set a lap time here. Mark Schweening has actually just set one and it was not valid, but here comes Mark Schweening was valid. Here comes Michael Thiessen, and it's a 142.2 for him. Mark Schweening setting a 140.5. So currently sitting at the top is Schweening with Michael Thiessen down in second. But we're going to have to wait and see how the rest of this qualifying session pulls through. Ken Poland up into second with a 141.4. And we're just going to have to see who can keep this car under control for the next 6 minutes.
Indeed, you also have to think about the balance of the car going through some of the corners. The weight transfer, yes, there is not a lot of weight to them, but you've seen that engine. I think that's where a lot of the weight is. It's more towards the rear, more towards where you're sitting, because you're kind of one of the big heavy things in this car. It's a very lightweight car, very nimble. It really depends on the setup where you kind of take this car. Thiessen from the US heading in towards this downhill section. Now he's got to try and find his way through that forest section before that he's got to attack the mountain, which you'll see here. It's just an uphill section continuously till you hit that tipping point. In the British Superbikes, you get so many great pictures there with the air that is caused by that sudden leap of that sudden leap from the mountain, and because the Superbikes have so much power, you just get air shots every single time. Maybe not in a race car though. That would take quite a lot if we were to try that. So whatever accelerates really well, but let's not try and put one of those cars around here. I think it'd end in a bit of a catastrophe.
Yeah, and I mean, just like you're talking about weight. I mean, you're looking at superbikes. I mean, around about 150 to 250 kilograms, depending on spec. You're looking at the Formula V, 396 kilograms without a driver on board. I mean, to think of that as a four-wheel vehicle that can absolutely destroy a track up, that's a really low amount of weight to be trying to take around circuit, and that's exactly why what Adam says is so crucial in the Formula V. Weight distribution is a key factor to trying to get good lap times, but not only that, trying to keep consistent as much as possible in this car comes to good weight distribution and consistent braking, as well as those downshifts. Downshifting, like you mentioned, Adam, the engine is in the back and it takes up a large portion of this car's weight, so changing gears does change a lot to how this car reacts to the road, how it reacts to the driver's inputs, and that's exactly why it does require quite a lot of focus here on Cadwell Park in this vehicle. But currently, Joel Bergada sits first place in provisional pole on qualifying with a 139.4, currently the only driver, and Mark Schweening almost losing the rear end there, Adam.
Indeed, that's something I spotted there. That's why it made the sound if you heard on the microphone. Yeah, that was, I think a little bit of a swapper went on, just approaching the left-hander a little bit too quickly, and unfortunately the swapper getting onto him. He managed to just about save it, but yeah, that would have cost him about 0.3 of a second, maybe even a little bit more. But Bergada is looking pretty strong here. The Spaniard just out there at this moment in time, still inputting the lap time. We still haven't seen a couple of laps here from Zach, who we spoke to earlier. Poulin's gone up to 5th. We've got Cox up there in 9th, and looks like yeah, we do have somebody down there in P10. Is that
yeah, that's Mr. Zach Rattray, right? Yeah, that's our current reigning champion from season 1.
And Suleiman Khan going over the line for 3rd place as well. And there is Zach Rattray White heading in toward the forest section he goes, and over the bumps you can see there, and you just saw when he smacked the brakes there down in toward the hairpin section, the nose starts to go down as well. That's really how you can tell where are these drivers braking as well, so that's something to also keep an eye out for. It's the most minimal of nosedives, but that kind of gives you an idea. And there you go, Retro White over the timing beam to go P1 by 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about Joel Bergado being the only driver to break 139 so far. Zach White coming in with a 138. Currently the fastest driver out on track, 0.8 ahead of Joel Bergado. So he definitely did a little bit of research on Cadwell Park. He knows what he's doing, he knows that car, and he knows how to control it. And that weight distribution practice is coming in greatly for Mr. Zach White. And what's something very interesting to see, I do not see his rival Gianni Lutsu in this session currently. And if that doesn't happen, according to what we've seen in the past rounds, it's not going to be the hardest fight then for Zach White, unless one of the underdog drivers over here can potentially fight him out through the track. But with 1 minute left of qualifying to go, not too many more people need to get that car over the grid. We've got a couple of drivers who haven't been able to set a lap time, such as Nathan Maroney and David Babson, still just trying to get those final laps in. David Babson now out on a flying lap, about a quarter of a way into the track so far, and just trying to find grips. Obviously not getting a valid lap time in, or potentially doing it on purpose to maybe start at the back. Maybe he's predicting a little bit of chaos towards the front, Adam.
Indeed, there's so much that is up for opportunity in this race. We do look like we have a 14th car, in fact, in this race. I'm not entirely sure if that's maybe a mistake or anything, but we do have David Babson out here, who is just sitting, I think, 13th. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but there you go. Qualifying is over, and we'll. Oh, is he? So yeah, it's 16. So we do have actually more than the 13 drivers we spotted here in practice. So yeah, really nice to see that these guys are really getting a decent grid here for Formula V, and I think it's worth for you to take us through the grid.
Absolutely, but no stress at all. Coming in now, we've just finished off qualifying, and it's been a great one to watch so far. But let's go through our starting procedure grid, with Zach Rattray White taking first place, followed by Joel Bergado in second, 0.8 behind. Rob Wright takes third. Solomon Khan takes fourth position. Matthias Marin takes fifth, with Mark Schweening, the first person to set a lap today, in sixth. Ken Poland in seventh, followed by Alex Bradley in eighth. Martin Fisser in ninth position, followed by Neil Hanley in 10th, who had a very intense fighting procedure at last round at VR South, now looking to make redemption. 11th position, Michael Thiessen, followed by Eric Cox in 12th position. And then from 13th down to 16th, we are looking at Zen Carr in 13th position, followed by Henry Miller in 14th, Nathan Maroney, as well as David Babson, 15th and 16th. Two drivers unable to set a lap time in this qualifying session. So all drivers out on the grid. We're waiting for a couple more just to come out of the pit lane and get ready to get started. But this is going to be an interesting race. What are the final speculations, Adam? How are you turn one here?
I think a lot of the drivers need to be prepared for sure. They need to be looking around them. You know, there's so much that can happen on this first lap. This is probably maybe one of the closest moments they all have together. And yeah, just to avoid that first lap is an absolute, I won't say miracle, but it is an absolute relief for sure. So I think a lot of these drivers are going to have to really be careful about what is going to happen in that first corner of Coppice, and then up the hill, and then into towards that narrow section. It is just going to be a domino effect of cars just trying to battle for position at the lights are about to go at.
Yeah, so we've got 5 red lights, all drivers ready on grid. It's 5 lights now, and lights are officially out. You see the smoke spinning from those wheels as everybody letting go of their clutch, seeing who can get the better pull-off. Joel Bergado with an absolutely amazing pull-off on that V. Just manages to jump Zach White on the start of this race into turn 1. It looks like everybody's keeping their composure straight into line format as everybody persuades around Cadwell Park. Currently, Joel Bergado up 1 position, holding off from the reigning champion from Season 1, Zach Rattray White, already looking for redemption up on the inside line. A little bit back, though, we've got contact. Eric Cox getting tapped on the backside of his V is just off, but now side by side, Zach Rattray White diving up on the inside as well for the likes of Rob Wright, diving up on the fellow Canadian driver, and there's huge contact in the background. And that looks like Solomon Khan, multiple drivers involved in that. Matthias Marin is in that one as well as that looks like Mark Schweening. Unfortunate crash from there. Oh, almost a dangerous rejoin as well. But my goodness, Adam, we literally spoke about it. 2 meatballs on lap 1. What an absolute start.
Having a look now at Mark Schweening as they head over the crest and then on towards the right-hander. You're now just seeing this, I think, side by side, and yeah, it looks like a tap round in there with Schweening, in fact, getting the big leap, I believe. One of the V's getting a big old leap there. So, yeah, really unfortunate in that one, but we'll continue with the German drivers. He looks to try and go around the outside. That was, in fact, Martin. So, Matthias Martin, the Canadian, just moving ahead of the German there, but it's still Zach Rattray White who is moving into the lead here. How far can he extend that advantage?
Yeah, I mean, Zach, almost immediately, he knew he got a bad start there, but taking that leap as fast as possible, not even allowing 3 corners in, and already making the dive on the likes of Joel Bogado. But now 3 cars getting called into the pits by the race control associate, just pulling them in with the, you can see there on the race live timing screen, the 3 yellow meatballs is what it's called in the iRacing community, but it's actually the black and orange flag for damages on your car that are deemed unsafe to be driving. So all those drivers into the pit lane, but now Neil Hanley is trying to fight up as hard as he can. That's Martin Visser diving up on the inside of him. Is he going to defend, or is he going to let him hold off? And now Martin Visser, holding off on the inside line, manages to hold it off on the inside as hard as possible. But now Neil Hanley will look to try and retake that position, or will he let it go? He seems to be fading a little bit as the likes of Visser are already pulling away. And now just behind him, that looks like Maroney climbing up towards the backside of that green V, and it's soon going to be nose to gearbox, and the fighting is going to continue. But looking at this battle, I mean, this is going to get close. Neil Hanley from last week, already a good driver, had a little bit of action that we saw at VIR South, but now he's once again in another battle.
Indeed he is, and these battles are going to start getting pretty close here, especially if you've got a 3-car battle. And being the meat in the sandwich here, Neil Hanley, I think, is going to have to look ahead and behind, which is never easy. The Irishman heading in toward the hairpin section. Oh, that's a bit wide there from Maroney, the Australian from down under, was just hoping to get a good exit there, but it didn't look like he was able to. Alex Bradley also there, the American, trying to get a good launch off the corner there, but it looks like Hanley will now get overtaken here by the Australian on Maroney. So I wonder if Hanley made a mistake there going into that final corner to allow the Australian to get a run in and then go through. So that is a superb job from Maroney. Will he be able to go on and overtake Visser here? It's a tough ask here, but if he can do exactly what he did last time around, just push the Brit into a bit of a mistake, then that will be such a relief here for Maroney. I think he's on for a really good result, but he's going to have to try and overtake not just the Brits, but yeah, local knowledge may play a part here for Visser in front.
Yeah, this is going to be an intense battle that we're going to have to keep on watching throughout the race, but there's still 26 minutes for these drivers to try and make as many positions and as many changes as possible. And now looking a little bit further down towards the back, Henry Miller is currently trying to chase onto the back of David Babson, who's made an incredible launch from the start of the race. Started last place in 16th, up to 10th already for the American driver. So incredible stuff from him. That's a 6th place jump in 1 or 2 laps. Lap 3 right now, so 2 laps already, and he's up to 10th position. You can see there's 6 places up. Nathan Maroney 9 positions up as well, and just in front of him, Zen Carr also 4 positions up just ahead. And so that's his goal right now, chasing onto Carr, just a little bit ahead in 9th position, but he does have Miller as well as Michael Thiessen a little bit further on in the background, who's not just letting this fight happen in front of him. He's going to be able to join this real soon, but a little bit further on in front, here comes a fight because Maroney has found Visser, and he's jumped up onto the inside of him into turn 1, and he's made an incredible performance there. Nathan Maroney, one to watch, up onto the inside already, didn't get a qualifying position, a qualifying time in, and started 15th, already up to 5th. So that's 10 positions now for the likes of Nathan Maroney, now chasing down Ken Poland and potentially trying to find that podium, Adam.
Indeed, if you can go for the podium, that'll be an absolutely superb run for the Australian. Meanwhile, it looks like Alex Bradley is now looking on the inside here, the Irishman. I think the Irishman is just struggling here, and Hanley is now looking to try and just keep his 7th place for now, but Bradley just holding on there as they head their way downhill in towards this left-hander, keeping it in 3rd gear. He'll just keep it in 3rd for now. But it looks like Alex Bradley is a man on the move. He wants to try and get past Hanley, but yeah, it's going to be a tough ask. Maybe down in towards turn 1 here could be the open opportunity if he can get that run. But yeah, you're asking a lot maybe for a driver to make a mistake, but it's never too far away if you can push him into one.
No, definitely not. And I mean, it's Cadwell Park. There's always room for error, and it's not a commentator's curse thing trying to make error appear, but it is something that should always be omnipresent because it does happen in racing. Error comes when anything can happen, a driver's skill, a driver's tiredness, or even just not seeing something with the reflex that you might need to see it at. It could cause a catastrophic accident. It could even cause a minor accident that just leads to you losing a couple of positions or even a couple of tenths, but that's exactly how racing works. But now Bradley just trying to fight and keep onto the back of Hanley. You can see every single lap, depending on sectors, he gets closer, but Hanley also pulls further in certain sectors, so the different driving styles definitely shining through here. Hanley seemed to be carrying a lot more pace onto the straights compared to Alex Bradley over here, because he seems to be pulling a couple of tenths every single time we approach the straight and then into our lower cornering zones. It seems like Bradley getting a better entrance into each corner, starts to find that gearbox a little bit easier of Hanley, and he can start to picture it a bit more for a potential overtake. There's action though. Zen Car is dropping fast off the live standings, and looks like he took on a little bit of grass there. Not too sure what happened to him. Let's look at a quick replay just before Adam takes us through a little bit more. Zen Car coming through, and what happened here? Was it a bad downshift? Looks like coming around the corner, touches the end curb, and oh, just a little bit too much over rotation. Manages to save the car, at least no damage there. A little bit of grass in the radiator and the undercarriage, but it's nothing major, and it's not going to be the end of his race this far.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's a little bit of a frustrating moment there for Zencar, but you know, it's not the end of the world. There's still plenty of opportunity to make it up. I think what in a situation like this, you'd love to have a safety car or a pace car, they call it over in the States. Is that a broken front nose? I just noticed. We'll stick with this battle for now because Hanley is looking like he's going defensive from Alex Bradley, and Alex Bradley just wasn't able to get that run entirely, still sticking there in the background of this 3-car battle as he looks to latch onto Visser. I want to go back to Nathan Maroney here because I've noticed he is actually starting to latch on Kevin Poulin for 4th, because that gap is starting to close down a good race of knots here, and Maroney might be within an opportunity if we approach the 1/3 through the race mark here.
Yeah, definitely. Maroney's got the pace. It seems like he's got the consistency as well, and he has shown that he definitely has the skill to try and overtake and potentially catch up to Poland just ahead. So we're going to have to keep on watching him. Ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye on that live standings time. You can see 13 seconds to Kevin Poland ahead, and that time is going to drop. Sorry, that's 13 seconds overall gap to the leader, but that time is slowly going to drop. But looking back towards the backside, our battle for 9th, 10th, and 11th, David Babson seems like he's got a little bit of breathing room because Michael Thiessen has made the overtake on David Miller, and now also alongside the likes of David Babson, potentially taking the overtake. And as we talk about it, he manages to sneak up right on the outside line of the likes of Babson, and that for Thiessen is another position on the belt, up into the top 10 now easily in 9th position. A little bit further behind is the likes of Matthias Marin, trying to recover that race after the incident he had earlier on, and further back Neil Hanley just trying to hold on now to Bradley, and he's lost a position, it seems like, to Alex Bradley, now trying to regain it. Let's go back and see what happened there. So currently you can see Neil Hanley just a little bit of head still coming through the very flicking style corners, And does a move get made? Does he make any form of error? Oh, and up the inside. Little bit of contact there actually from Alex Bradley, and thankfully not too much damage, but a little bit of wheel-to-wheel action there, Adam.
Indeed, I don't think you'll be too much of a race ruiner for either of those guys, but yeah, it's not an ideal situation either. So they'll both continue on their race, but overall, I think they're still just trying to just maintain the pace at this moment in time. Yeah, Neil Handley will probably be walking away from this race thinking, yeah, there would have been so much more for me in this race, but yeah, just hasn't been able to extract the maximum as this Formula V car has the Irishman. But I'm sure he'll be looking to reset the mentality, and reset the mind, and go again in the future. Meanwhile, it looks like Poulin has been gained on drastically here by Maroney. I believe he's made a mistake in the last couple of moments, so it looks like now he's going to try and go through as Henry Miller finds himself onto the infield grass on the inside of the downhill section. So I wonder if he's maybe had a bit of help around. We'll have a look at this replay very quickly before I pass it over to you. But the American down the hill, just like the bad rotation there. And one of the cars being very lucky not to be collected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, loads and loads of good saves have already come from these drivers. We don't even have time to talk about it because Ken Polan is getting harassed from behind by Nathan Maroney. He's pointing the nose of that Formula V any direction he can, and the pressure has gotten to both of them. Huge contact. Nathan Maroney is into the wall. Possible wheel damage for both drivers. Ken Polan, a little bit of a better situation, and Maroney is flicking it around with donuts, trying to recover that V. It's slippery out there on the grass. But my goodness, the pressure got to both drivers. It looked like Maroney followed Poland's line over there, just off onto the grass. And that is all grip lost on these Formula Vs. Looking back at it, you can see Ken look at the pressure from Maroney up on the inside. Ken takes the outside line. You can see there's loads of back and forth here. So now this was actually flipped. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nathan Maroney who went off. Ken Poland follows him and oof, into the front of that suspension. And that's definitely going to be a little bit of damage on the front right of Nathan Maroney's car. Struggling to get it recovered like we saw. But my goodness, loads of action here. 13 minutes into the race. There is no room for breathing room here, Adam, because here comes the next fight.
Indeed, still so many opportunities in this race. We're about to hit that halfway distance into this race. But Nathan Maroney, what a fight for the field he's had. He had 4-for-1 save. It was there. It was in his grasp. And then just a mistake from the driver. It just didn't quite work out for him. And there goes Matthias Martin, just keeping himself in 10th place. In fact, he was the driver that just managed to avoid Henry Miller's spin. So he's got very, very lucky. The Canadian trying to push on. Leader of the championship as well. So I think that number 14 Formula V, very much multicoloured, is trying to push on. What about Nathan Maroney? I wonder how the car feels. But if you notice there on the leaderboard on the left hand side, black flag for Nathan Maroney. That is a very, very bad sign here.
Yeah, I actually just noticed that now on the live timing leaderboard. And that is definitely going to be a major contribution is from that incident he just had with Poland. Possible earlier track incidents, but that is over. That's a disqualification for Nathan Maroney. A black flag shown next to his car. And that is super unfortunate. Oh, and there's been a spin just coming off the mountain. Eric Cox struggling to keep control of his car. And now trying to bring it back on. Thankfully, it doesn't look like too much damage. There might be a little bit of paintwork scrapings there, but thankfully not too much. But before we move on to any other action, just to mention a major thing here, if you've ever wondered why so many of these drivers have picked up pace over the past couple of seasons, it's because of our amazing new sponsor here at TGR, at the TGR Nation Grand V of Sambo Racing, who provides the best setups out there on YouTube. And incredible stuff to them sponsoring this series. And you'll see their logo flash a couple of times in the top right of the broadcast. So helping the drivers just find that balance in Formula V. But the action continues over here. Now Neil Handley fighting towards up the top 5. Now sitting just outside of it in 6th. Ken Polan in front of him, who managed to recover the best out of the situation he had earlier with Maroney. But it's going to be a tight one to see how these drivers can pull it in for the last half of this race.
Indeed, steals so many opportunity. But there goes Moroni's coming in, so he's serving that black flag penalty. So he'll come into the kind of spare pit lane, which is not quite as built up as many other pit lanes. But Moroni is now back out into 10th place, and he'll in fact have to fall down into 12th with Zach Carr going up the inside. Meanwhile, we look back at the other driver involved in that incident, Ken Poulin, and he's currently sitting in 5th here, whilst Visser sits up in 4th. So good stuff for Visser. I think he saw that as a wide open gate that he just wanted to pull through. But meanwhile, up at the top end of the field, Zach Rattray White is really putting the demons to bed compared to what happened here last season, and leading from the front by 14.5 seconds. Mighty stuff here from the New Zealander. Or is he Australian? I do apologize.
No, that is definitely New Zealandish. I'm pretty sure that's actually, there's not much differentiation you can see with the two flags. It's just the one star underneath. And to be honest with you, Adam, we're in the same boat. I actually cannot differentiate at this point. I've got too much focus on what the Vs are doing actually out on track. So we'll get back to that at the end of the race when we've clarified it. But towards the mid-pack is currently Matthias Marin, who's just gotten past Michael Thiessen. Now, after that incident he had early on in the race with Mark Schweening, is wanting redemption to climb back up this ladder. Now into 8th position, going to be chasing down on Alex Bradley and trying to redeem himself to gain a little bit more points. Currently the championship leader, and a little bit of both drivers actually, hey? You saw that, Adam, both of them. Oh, and another there in the background. A couple of drivers just not catching the grip in these cars.
Indeed, just not quite being able to latch on here. Nathan Moroni just taking another place. I wonder if he does have that same pace, and if he does, the fired belly of Moroni will be all that he needs to try and file his way back through the field. I definitely can see an 8th place being on the cards. If he can go even further, hey, potentially a P6. But for the Australian, he really just needs to just put everything in the back of the mind, and he'll then work on his way through. But I've been really impressed with the action this race. There's been some really, really good stuff, especially as someone who's never covered V in iRacing. There's been some pretty competitive moments. I just wonder if we had more increased field, if that would maybe increase the action a little bit, because there's some parts where it's starting to go a little bit dry, especially up toward the front, where the front gap now is up to 17 seconds. The mid-pack has just been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, so I mean, even last week we saw it at VR South. Because Mr. Gianni Lutzu was here, we did see loads of action towards the first position fight. But this time, there is no one to contend against Zach White, up 18 seconds now almost. But, the real focus right now in this race is, like you mentioned, Adam, the mid-pack. That's where we're seeing the drivers catching the draft on each other constantly, and that's where the straight is coming to fight. And that's exactly where the drivers are finding their most vulnerable points. And, there's a spin. David Babson just not finding the grips in that V, and we'll have a quick replay just to see what happened. But once again, it's going to be another case of grip loss coming through over the curbs. A little bit of touching there on the rear on that back curb. Now let's see what happens coming into the next chicane. And just touching. Yeah, everything looks fine. Oh, and a little bit of unsettlement there on the rear. It looks like he went over one of the kitty lights on the left side, the sausage curbs, and just bouncing around in that V. Thankfully, an easier recovery for him. But nothing you still want to see here. While racing especially, it's not something you want happening. And now Thiessen on the backside of Moroni, who's looks like he's struggling a little bit after that black flag penalty, don't you think, Adam?
Yeah, I was wondering if that, but I'm thinking more about the collision because it was kind of tyre to tyre, so that may have done something a little bit with the suspension. I'm not entirely sure how strong these suspensions are in real life. I've never really actually seen one in real life, so I would question the durability of the suspension a little bit, but yeah, as long as it's not bent, it should be okay for the Australian, but it does go a little bit wide, so I think maybe I think the frustration, just knowing that he could have been 4th, could have been 3rd, and that car is all over the shop. It's slipping around like a squid on ice.
Yeah, no, definitely. There might be some form of contributing factor there to damage, because from that incident we saw, Moroni was actually someone who had the worst of it in terms of that contact. He got sent off left. And so he might actually be fighting a little bit of suspension damage that we can't see currently from the camera. But now Zenkar, another meatball flag shown against his name. Wonder what happened there. Not too sure if it's just consistent damage. Maybe he's bumped it. Oh, that nose is bent beyond galore. He's definitely made a little bit of a mistake up in the mountain section. Going to be pulling it in to get that car fixed. And definitely suspension damage. You could see there on cockpit cam over there. That steering wheel was far left while trying to maintain it through the mountains. So he's going to have to get that fixed. Thankfully, fast repair is enabled here and gets out of the pit lane extremely efficiently back out onto track to try and fight for more further positions. But nothing, not something you definitely want to see. But now Martin Visser fighting against Ken Poland, who was actually fighting with Maroney earlier. So this is where Maroney would be without that incident earlier. Now Visser trying to redeem himself as well and potentially pull himself further into the top 5.
Indeed, Visser has got some great pace on him, but he hasn't quite been able to match up this high. Again, Pooling might be also limping with a potential damage with the suspension as well. So keep an eye on the American driver, see that kind of pace and see if it maybe drops off or if there's something odd going on with the steering angle. We've been seeing that kind of over-the-shoulder camera that we've been running on board with a couple of drivers from. We might be able to see something through there, especially maybe down the straight. But this definitely could do this. There's 8 minutes remaining. He'll start to now be starting to figure out the lines that Poulin is taking, and if he can just follow him for now, I definitely think there's a 4th place up here for the Brit, which is the maximum that he'll be able to get. It looks like Rattree White is approaching a couple of back marks. He's already overtaken 2. He might be going on for another one as well.
Yeah, so Zach now encountering a couple of back markers. That is unfortunately the likes of Sullivan Khan and as well as Eric Cox. 2 drivers are unfortunately a lap down now due to incidents earlier on in the race, and are now having to concede position to the race leader, Zach, who's already performed well over 13 laps, almost about a complete 14 laps here at Cadwell Park. But so far, what an interesting race this has been. 22 minutes in, almost 23 minutes in now, and there's just been up and down constant action. And, it's an unfortunate thing to see for some drivers. For example, Ken Poland will probably not have as much hope as possible, seeing, that gap to 3rd place is quite big for him right now. It's a good couple of seconds, well over 10 seconds. But now for some drivers like that, it's just about keeping your head down for trying to fight the drivers behind you and not lose those positions. Joel Bergada, though, still maintaining 2nd position. He got the jump on Zach White at the start of this race, but unfortunately not able to defend the reigning champion. A little bit further behind him is Rob Wright, who's trying to catch up, only 2 seconds away. So this could potentially be a little bit of a podium position change if Rob is able to catch up a little bit closer to Joel Bergada coming towards the end of this race.
Indeed, I think there's still that opportunity for that battle to incur, but remember, we do have about 6 minutes remaining of time left, so the Canadians going to have to really be pushing it, and Maroney gets another black flag. Look at that on the left-hand side. That has just appeared not even 5 seconds ago. That is now going to be Nathan Maroney having to serve yet another penalty, I believe, for track limits. And my word, it is gone from bad to worse to horrible for the Australian. As Henry Miller, another mistake there in the papaya or orange V there. And I wonder if this is kind of a mistake. Maybe he's just double locked up through the hairpin. He goes in toward the forest section, over the curb on the right, toward the left, and just double lock up. Massive lockup on both tyres as well, so you're just going straight for that tyre barrier. Luckily just stopped there, but again, another driver who's not had the best of race for the American.
No, definitely not. Unfortunately, Henry Miller just on the verge of becoming a blue flag eventually once Zach White catches up to him, as the 2 drivers behind him have already been lapped. But as you mentioned, not the best races he could have been hoping for. Thankfully, saving the front end of that V at that previous corner where double lockup is something you don't usually see in a V. That must have been a split decision reaction there. A little bit of fatigue possibly coming in, completely forgetting the braking point, and then just trying to actually slam the brakes in hopes that the car will stop and save the car from any further damage. And thankfully for him, he managed to stop the car. A little bit of grass munching over there. and getting it under the undercarriage of the car. And you can see heavy braking as that nose starts to tilt down on the downhill hairpin section over there. So now just a recovery drive for him. Further up on the hill, though, Nathan Maroney with the black flag still needing to serve his penalty. Will he serve it? Yes, he does. Goes into the pits now to serve that penalty. And you can see a pit limit speed activated, 14 kilometers. No, not 14 kilometers an hour. Apologies. That's 14 laps. And just coming out now back onto the track and trying to just bring this home at this point. To think it could have been a podium position there for him, and now not. Oh, and that is huge front damage for Zen Car. He's actually gotten a tow back to the pits. And let's quickly look what happened. Massive accident. My goodness, Adam, that is a huge spin on that purple V.
Yeah, that was just completely lost to the rear over the curve here. We'll see it once again here on board with the side camera, with the shoulder camera of Zen Car. Yeah, just grabbed too much curb, spun into the barrier, back. That is an absolutely hard hit there, and he just tried to carry on, but then realised, my suspension's gone. Straight into the Cadwell Park tyre barriers and tows it back to the pits. Zen Car, heartbreak for him as well. We now look back with Mark Schweenig, who is now sitting 11th, just in front of Babson. So they're fighting for 11th and 12th in this one, with about 3 minutes left to go.
Yeah, so this could potentially be a change in position here. Trying to fight it there in just 11th. A little bit further ahead, though, is also Maroney holding off the top 10. So they could be wanting to catch up to him. He's got the likes of Thiessen just a little bit ahead of him. So this fight a little bit more than they might expect, because Mark Schweening will definitely want to try and get that podium position, top 10 position coming towards the end of this race. And you can see a little bit of grass eating there for David Babson, just trying to find a little bit of clean air, sitting behind the likes of Mark Schweening. He will have the drag on the straights, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. He needs to find the consistent pace to get around Mark Schweening. Mark is definitely not a novice driver. He knows how to handle his V, and he has shown us in the previous rounds, and now it's all a matter of how he can control it for the next 2 minutes. Maroney has lost it to Thiessen, and now it's actually a switchback as well, because Maroney's back at it. But a little bit further, still Schweening a little bit off as well. There's constant fighting, and there's 2 fights right now. It's 9th and 10th, and then 11th and 12th fighting. Just up ahead on the hill, though, you can see Maroney up on the inside now of Thiessen, coming into the diving point. 2 very similar colored cars, but now Maroney on the outside grabs the inside curb and manages to pull away just ahead.
Indeed, Maroney must have been very happy to make that move, and that's Schweenig, who has now got not just losing 11th place, but a black flag as well. Let's have a look and see what happened here with the German driver. Down in towards the right-hander, kind of with the double right-hander, grabbed a little bit of curb, went onto the outside, and the rear decided to rotate there. Too much over rotation there, it seemed like, and he was so lucky to catch it, but of course that black flag would have to be served this lap, otherwise that's kind of game over for him. I think he'll only get another penalty for an unserved penalty. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, I'm not actually too sure. Oh, but David Babson is off. And just as we were talking about that, apologies, Adam will have to come back because David Babson has lost it. Let's just quickly take a look at what happened here with David. And just coming around back into the top of the mountain here, potentially the same thing that we saw Zen Car do, coming over the curb, climbs it, and just too much curb being taken, manages to avoid the bollards. He makes the marshals' jobs a bit easier. They don't have to put them back up, and pulls back onto the track. And oh, that looks like Henry Miller once again into the wall here at the top of the mountain, and that is super unfortunate for him as he just exits the mountain there, and not the greatest race for him. You can see Zach White just getting past him, and thankfully not too much complication with him. But back to Maroney. I'm actually not too sure what comes next if he does get another penalty. But yeah, it'll be a white flag now for the last lap of the race as Zach White on his 18th lap. 1 lap left to go. The timer is about to hit 30. And Adam, take us through the last couple of sectors here of this race.
Indeed, I will. And Zach Ratchet White has come on leaps and bounds over the last couple of seasons and is really working that Formula V around the wonderful Cadwell Park up in Lincolnshire in the UK, one of the most northern circuits on the UK car scene. Looks like Cox has got a black flag as well, so the car down in 15th already been lapped, already has had his moment in the walls, but it looks like he'll have to come into the pits one more time. But this has been an outstanding performance from the number 17, the reigning champion, and as I said, as very much earlier, he has now put those demons right to bed, right to sleep, and he is now going to be on his way for a victory. He's now entering the very technical section. Just don't bin it here, Zach. He's just got to keep it on the black stuff here on the road, and even if he does make a mistake right now, he sits at a 33-second advantage in toward the hairpin and round the final corner. Zach Ratchet White, it has been an absolute dominant performance from the New Zealander, but over the line he'll claim victory here at Cadwell Park. A fantastic result from the Kiwi, and it'll be Bagada who had the lead for the moment right at the beginning of the race. However, we've got contact between Thiessen and Maroney.
And if Maroney's race couldn't get any worse, it looks like he had a little bit of a moment there in the grass with Thiessen. Not too sure what happened there. Let's go back. That actually looked quite funny. It almost looked like they were giving each other a couple of bumps from annoyance. But now coming through the next corner, looking up on the inside line, is it a late dive? And a little bit of skidding, a little bit of touching. Oh, and there's climbing over suspensions there. And a little bit of bumps there. Michael Thiessen just not having it at all. And Maroney's race down from a potential podium all the way to the bottom of 10th. He has an unserved penalty as well. Him and the likes of Eric Cox, both with unserved penalties. Oh, David Babson gets a black flag penalty on the final lap here. Super unfortunate. And those will be time penalties actually applied to those drivers with those black flag penalties not being served. So Nathan Maroney, David Babson, and Eric Cox will get additional time served penalties, which means Mark Schweenan could potentially grab 11th. He could potentially grab 10th even, depending on how much of a penalty these drivers will get. But everybody crossing the line now, serving the penalty actually just at the end. And Michael Thiessen moves up to 9th. Nathan Maroney comes across in 10th. And David Babson just coming out of the pit lane now, trying to get that penalty served, will come across in 11th position. But my goodness, what a race it has been, Adam.
It's been a fantastic race here at Cadwell Park, and it's really been quite nose to tail for a lot of these battles. But yeah, I think Zach Ratchet White will be walking away from this circuit with the biggest smile on his face. And for sure, it has been one to remember for him. Of course, it hadn't been quite the same for Martin down there in P8, the Canadian, who I think came in as the leader of the championship. Yeah, not the most ideal result, but of course it does have that ability to have that mental reset, and will hope to be on a good run of form. Zach Ratchet White is your winner here in Cadwell Park. I've said that multiple times, but he has claimed a fantastic victory over Joel Bagada, and Rob White will be rounding off the podium. The Canadian putting in a good result there. Pim Poulin was very lucky to come away with 4th place there, especially with the multiple accidents he was unfortunately involved in, but continued to just hold it out for that 4th place spot ahead of Alex Bradley and Martin Visser. Neil Hanley, the Irishman, could have been a little bit better for him, but I'm sure he will take a 7th place result there ahead of Matthias Marin. Of course, as I said, came in as the championship leader. I'm not entirely sure what he's going to walk away with away from Cadwell Park hours, but I'm sure he will still be in that top 3. Then Michael Thiessen in 9th place ahead of Nathan Maroney. Well, that could have been a whole different result, whether with the string of accidents he unfortunately got himself into, how different could his race could have been. David Babson, Mark Schweening, and then Henry Miller, Suleiman Khan, and then Zen Khan. And I think the only DNF of this race, well, it looks like he managed to get going, but Eric Cox there well, the flag is not very recognisable in my memory, but yes, that's the 16 drivers that have taken part and finished across the line. And yeah, we've had a fantastic race here, and looking forward to the next round 5.
Absolutely incredible. Yes, next round, at round 5, we head to Rand Park, which is also going to be quite an interesting one to watch. But this has been the end officially for the likes of Cadwell Park round 4. I don't believe we've got anybody waiting in the interview room for an interview, so that will be all. But make sure you attend next week, and thank you once again to the massive sponsor here, TGR Nation of Sambo iRacing. It's been an absolute pleasure to commentate this with you, as well with my fellow commentator Adam Reed, as well with Samuli Kumo in the background showing us all the camera shots. It's been a fantastic night here out at the likes of Cadwell Park. Thank you once again for watching. We'll see you next week at Rand Park round 5 of TGR Nation Grand V. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.